Şimdi de basın açıklamamızın İngilizce kısmını İngiltere'den gelen Sayın Gülay Dalkılıç yapacaktır.
The people beliefs in Syria are under threat. More than a decade of war in Syria has brought not only physical persecution and violence targeting Alevis, Christians, Kurds, Assyrians, Yazidis, Druze, Ismailis and other faiths and ethnic groups. During this process for many years, the Syrian people have been struggling to survive in the face of hunger, misery and hardship. The people face attacks by jihadists and Salafist groups due to their identity and beliefs. They are displaced, their holy places are destroyed and they become the target of sectarian hatred. During this process, Alevis in particular have been one of the main communities subjected to sectarian and religious attacks and massacres by jihadist organisations. Attacks against Alevis pose a direct threat not only to the identity of a community but also to the will of the peoples in the region to live together in peace. Alevis and misperceptions. Alevis have become the target of hate crimes by being wrongfully identified with the Esad regime. Radical groups incite violence with the discourse of Alevis and Esad is an Alevi. Iran has only supported the Esad regime in Syria, but not the Syrian people themselves. This situation has created a perception that Iran also supports the Alevis. However, Iran does not consider Alevis as close to itself in terms of belief and does not identify them as among the Shiite communities. Alevis are not Iranian Shiites and the aforementioned misperceptions feed sectarian propaganda and hatred against Alevis. Historic and current massacres. The attacks on Alevis are not new. The Akrab Massacre 2012, the Man Massacre 2014, the Zara Massacre 2016, and many other massacres that have been fueled by sectarian hatred reveal the systematic violence of radical groups. Sectarian hatred has been legitimised using historical and contemporary religious fatwas. Last month, the Alevi community called on the HTS government to show restraint and take steps to build a common secular Syria. However, this call was ignored and massacres were carried out against civilians in Alevi villages and furthermore, holy places were attacked. Jihadist, Salafist groups recorded those massacres on video and used brutal methods such as beheading and mass execution with the message, Alevis, we are coming for you. These persecutions and brutality are crimes against humanity, not only in the military sphere, but also in the civilian one. And remaining silent in this situation means being an accomplice to the crime. Systematic destruction of sacred sites, Alevi shrines, Christian churches, and the holy sites of other faith groups have been systematically vandalised by radical groups. Thousands of civil servants have been dismissed on the grounds of sectarian discrimination and many others have been subjected to arbitrary arrests and unjust trials. Hatred towards and attacks against Alevis continue to increase and reach genocidal proportions. In the countryside of Humus, the agricultural lands of Christians were burnt and destroyed and the Assyrians living in the Malula were subjected to blockades and attacks. Alevi philosophy in international peace. Throughout history, Alevis have defended the values of peace, fellowship and love and have based these beliefs on love, compassion and tolerance. The understanding of viewing all 72 nations as one is the basis of the Alevi belief. It is a universal call that summarises the principles of tolerance and equality. The philosophy of tolerance has symbolised a strong stance against sectarianism and hatred. Today, however, not only Alevis, but all Syrian people are under threat in terms of their existence and security. Sectarian hatred and radical violence threaten the common values of humanity. peace and fellowship can only be achieved by recognising the equal citizenship rights of minorities and protecting their cultural heritage. All those who uphold the dignity of humanity must show solidarity and stand against hatred and persecution. Our demands: number one, the right to life and freedom of worship. The right to life and freedom of worship for all religions and belief groups must be guaranteed. All ethnic structures and beliefs should be under constitutional protection by creating a democratic, liberal and secular constitution. Number two, prospective condemnation and sanctions. Sectarian hate speech should be unequivocally condemned by international organisations and sanctions imposed on groups spreading such propaganda. Number three, the protection of sacred sites. Sacred sites should be protected, the safe return of those who have been forcibly displaced should be ensured, and those responsible for human rights violations should be prosecuted in independent courts. Number four, UN supervision and guarantees. The United Nations and the Council of Europe should provide guarantees for stability in Syria and oversee the transitional government and create the necessary conditions for fair and democratic elections. Number five, they must cut ties with radical groups. The European Union should condemn the crimes against humanity committed by HTS and similar extremist groups and sever all ties with them. Number six, they must strengthen the minority rights. All minorities, especially Alevis and Kurds, should be able to freely express their identities, receive education in their mother tongue, and have the right to self-government through autonomous governments. Our call. We call on the United Nations peacekeeping force to deploy in the area of conflict and massacre in Syria and to take active action to stop these attacks. Every day that the UN peacekeeping force fails to attack, civilians are massacred in Syria. We appeal to the public. Remaining silent about the crimes being committed is the same as being an accomplice to these crimes. All those who act with this conscience must raise their voices against this persecution by standing on the side of justice and human rights. History will not forget this indifference.